Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brace for Impact. It's that time again. I am Benikage with Parks as always. Parks, great to be back with you.
Yeah, as long as you don't die while we're mid recording. Um
Yeah, I got the flu. Look, here's the deal. Here's the deal for everybody watching this, okay? Parks hasn't done much editing in the first two episodes, which he just hasn't needed to, right?
no.
But I thought I might as well put the man to work and give him an episode. Get sick so I can give him
Oh,
an
of
episode
course.
where editing is required.
I at least made it easier
Still
on
not gonna
myself.
edit shit. Still
No,
not gonna
no,
edit
no.
shit. It's all good. It's all
I
good.
made it easier on myself at least by not having a third person on that could potentially just destroy the audio. So uh Megs was perfect last week though. She was all or last 2 weeks ago. Wow. Time flies.
Yeah, time does fly. Yeah. Excellent, excellent guest we had last
Last
fortnight
episode.
ago. So,
Yeah.
but a lot's changed since then, Parks.
Well, that's
And
yeah, that's one of the reasons why we waited because now all the qualifiers and playoffs are done. We've got quite a bit on our hands to go through. We've got 5 divisions in total and plenty of time to see what happened.
absolutely. So let's steer through some of these results. That's an absolutely terrible joke. But let's steer through some of these results nonetheless, right? We'll start with the open qualifiers, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And we'll start with the South African qualifiers. So we had Megs on, fresh off the back of a Cash Cup loss in to White Rabbit Amaryllis.
Yep.
And didn't have to play them in the qualifier this time. It was Vibin who beat White Rabbit in the semifinal, 16-14 on the Ancient. ATK got past He 16-8. That was on Mirage. And then so it set up a ATK Vibin final, which ATK saw through 16-10 on Vertigo, 16-9 on the Dust 2. So ATK, the return of Meggy Weggy to land, the return of ATK to land. They'll be at season 2 finals.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had the chance to cast this stuff with Hayanut. Shout out to him. He's been working a little bit in the background here, making some
Excellent
cool
cast, by the
stuff.
way.
Excellent, well, thank you. But also, he's been making some behind the scenes stuff for stats, graphics, like that whole thing. Shout out to him. I am definitely going to be using those in the near future for various projects that I want to try and make, various articles maybe. But yeah, that's a really cool thing that he did on his laptop before he got his main PC. But yeah, it's really interesting to talking to him about it. Was when we started, I had no idea who any of the teams were besides ATK. ATK had to buy because 7 teams were through. Um, and he said, Vibe
We,
and
we got
female.
we got the classic, by the way. One
Yeah,
team failed to check in.
yeah,
We got the
yeah.
classic.
You know what? You are right. There were 8 teams that signed up, and only 7 of them went through because of that missed check-in. Which it's a staple now, I guess. One team has to fail somehow in terms of either just not showing up day of or not checking in on time. It's or they get disqualified. It's always fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a mystery, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, Vibe and females, they looked really good. They 16-0'd their first match in the quarterfinals, which was really cool to see, even though it was the last match to start, it was the first one to finish, and that was I liked it. Yeah, and then of course they go on to face against White Rabbit Amaras, who were, as of the time, were kind of favored to win out, or at least have a closer series against ATK. And that's not to say that the rounds that ATK and Vibin played weren't close; they were very close. It's just the scoreline shows that ATK kind of always had a good grip on the game and were able to successfully win out there. And yeah, the results showed ATK, they came to play and they absolutely smacked it out of the park. So they're going to be going to Yakuping, and congratulations to them. I mean, a lot of us are very big Megs fans, but also shout out to the rest of our teammates there. To SSB, I'm gonna start naming them, and I'm gonna get them all wrong. Casey, Leafy, Gracie, so Blades as well as their coach.
You've done well there. You haven't gotten any of them wrong. So, the other thing too to remember, like that was the big, I guess, thing to watch before the final. Obviously, was going to be like, what is this Vibe and White Rabbit semifinal going to be like? Because they
Yeah,
played in the Cash Cup a weekend before, and the Inferno wasn't close. White Rabbit were 16-7 on that one, but the Ancient went to overtime.
right.
And so when we saw the Ancient again, I was like, wow, we're in for a barn burner of a game here. We did get one. I'm
Yeah,
glad we did. But this time it was Vibin that came out on top because in that best of three, I believe it was Vibin's map pick, if I remember
right.
correctly. And then White Rabbit chose the Inferno. So I thought we were going to get a really close game. We did get a really close game, and then ATK did well to just see it over the line. There were some times where Viben looked good in that final, but ATK were always just a step in front. And I think that just the difference, the small difference in quality there between the two sides shown through in the final. That's why ATK are going to be at Jokaping.
Yeah. So that's South Africa, and congratulations to them. I think we mentioned it earlier, but it's crazy to think that 8 teams signed up when usually they might get 3 or 4 coming into those cash cups. So congrats to them. There's interest being shown, even if that load shedding really does kill them a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I mean, we hit nearly 100 viewers just kind of naturally off that all, and I think a lot of that was because ATK was they had their like a watch party going on and all this, and
yeah.
yeah, just shout out again to High and Newt for co-casting with
When you
me.
put
And
two goats together, though, of course you're gonna get the freaking, you know what I mean? You and Newt.
yeah,
So no, but it was a good show. It was a really good final. So
the other qualifier then that was going on, it had we don't really know too much about this one because it was in the Asia sector, and that one's a little hard to kind of figure out. It is HSG going through. We got Hazel, G-Fi, Zawu, Argent, Hefo, and their coach Flux. They ended up 2-0.
Ramona, Ramona back on land. GFI, the storied player. Like Hazel as well, by the way. But GFI, I'm always a big fan of GFI. I've been a big fan of GFI for a while. If you remember, she played back on Orange Sphinx Esports, which the last time that they made land was the DreamHack Showdown Valencia pre-COVID.
Yep.
So that team was GFI, Argent, Jasminism, Eve, and Alaska. That was a Malaysian outlet. So, of course, they won. Actually, we had two teams from that. Uh, well, it was the Zowie Divina Asia Championship that was the two qualifying spots for that Valencia tournament. And oddly enough, on the other side, Leo, Hazel, HFFO, M, and Maze. That was the
Yep.
Chinese outlet, right? Hazel, of course, being from Hong Kong. But they beat a lot of decent teams in the qualifier, and those two teams. So this is like the return of the old guard in Asian women's Counter Strike, right? With
Right.
Hazel and GFI and HFFO coming back to land here. So it's great to see. But in terms of the actual qualifier, getting down to it, Parks, I think everybody knew that HSG were going to be the favorites. They've won more cash cups than any other side, including CLG in North America. I believe uh, HSG, not counting the one where they were the only team to sign up, I think they've won 11. And I think CLG have won 9 or 10. So it's like this is the other team that's really dominating cash cup performances. It was great. It's the same story. It was great to see that we got so many teams signed up because we usually only get two,
Yeah.
really only two for the Asia Pacific region. But we got 8 this time, and in the end, HSG definitely the favorites and showed why. They pretty much dominated from start to finish.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, looking at all their placements last year's, I just see a wall of firsts in any of the female tournaments they participated in. There was a few open qualifiers they tried to participate in for Asia Pacific. I think it was Challenger League stuff. It didn't go so well for them, of course, but uh, they're dominant on the female side. And you know what? If that's the continued thing, they'll continue to grow as they face off against the better teams coming from around the world. That can only lead to them improving as well, and hopefully bring that back and improving the rest of their scene. Uh, it's good to see that storied players are still going around and playing. Like you mentioned, GFI, 33 years old, playing this game still. She absolutely is having the time of her life right now, probably. And as long as they can keep playing, why not, right? Let's keep going until you have to be stopped.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, you look at this team. This team has always been like parts members of these teams have always been in the scene, right? We talk about Hazel being back on that. I think it was called 7 p.m. female back when they made the the Valencia showdown, and then obviously GFI was on Orange Sphinx, but then they formed together. And it was like Leo and 720 and 129 and Hazel and GFI for Tai Lu female. And that was a really good team. Uh, they formed together right before the pandemic, and then kind of the pandemic, there just wasn't really
Yeah, there wasn't
any
really anything for them.
anything for them. I mean, it's a story of a lot of other regions in the world too. But like what they did play in Legions of Valkyries, the Nest Pro Series female, um, even that WSG 2019 tournament. regionally, but they finished first. So these are players with quite a bit of experience. I mean, if you're looking forward to the land, I don't know if they're going to really be able to do much against the quality that we have going to Sweden, because I think we got pretty much all the best teams except for maybe Navi, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Um, but nonetheless, this is definitely the team you would have want coming out of the Asian region. And you can see, I mean, the closest result was the second map of the final, which was 16-8 on Dust 2. I mean, nobody was even close to touching HSG. And that was against a Halo Queen side that has Leo and 720 and 129. Those veteran players that we talked about that were playing with GFI on Tyloo. So I think really HSG has done well. And the only other point I want to make, Parks, is that really it adds to me, it adds to Ramona's legacy, because this is a player who has gone to Malaysia, not a region particularly known for producing fantastic Counter-Strike players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure, there might be one or two in the history of the game, but not particularly a dominant region. Created a team, got them to the Valencia land,
Yeah.
forms or signs for Tyloo female, takes some of the best player China has. They're the number one women's team in China, like in all of Asia, probably. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
2020 and 2021, they just don't have anything to play for, unfortunately, right? And at least that we know of, because obviously that region is very,
Right.
it's not as crystal clear as what goes on in that region in terms of tournaments and everything else.
Yeah.
And then comes into this HSG side and picks up players like Argent and whatnot, and with this mixed Malaysian, Chinese, and obviously Asia being from Hong Kong side, um, they're the most dominant force in the Asia Pacific region by far. So to me, this just only adds to her legacy, and I hope. I mean, she's 33 now. Forgive me for saying that on the podcast, but I only hope that once the playing days are done, whenever they may be, that she stays with the game, because I thought just to be able to have that kind of talent and then experience on even something like a broadcast would be phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, you think about players like Sponge, who they've played the game at a really high level before. Their career kind of it wasn't working out for them. The money wasn't there. They commit over into being talent instead, and now all of a sudden, boom, way more longevity in the game, but also being able to kind of impart who they are onto a broadcast and show like, yeah, this is the knowledge I have because I used to play the game and because of all this, it just kind of works out that way. So definitely want to keep her around for a while and maybe, Asia
I
Pacific needs
mean,
streamers. So
well, I mean, I don't think her competing days are. The weird thing is, I don't think her competition days are over anytime
no,
soon,
no, no. That's the
because
whole great
in that
part.
region she's like so dominant, like she's so good still for players in that region. It's just internationally on the big on the states like Yokaping, uh, you know, is she going to
Not
be able
sure
to
where
get
it
up?
is.
Well, is it? Yeah, you ever look at it and go, is she able going to get up onto a level where, like, she can compete with the likes of Enigma Galaxy, like an
Right.
Anna or a Vilga? And you'd think, probably not. And then even if she could, like, the time that it would take her to do so is probably very um, measured,
Yeah.
to put it lightly, right? If you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
offensive. I'm just
It's
saying,
it's
obviously when you get older, it becomes harder. So but she's still the most dominant player in Asia by
yeah.
far. So I think her playing days aren't done sooner, but I think internationally, after her playing days are done, there's going to be a world of opportunities for her if she stays with the game, because this is a player that has so much experience that that nobody in the Eastern Hemisphere can even touch right now.
Right. Well, so they've qualified now. They're going to be going to Yarping as well, and that's the two open qualifiers that come through. The rest of the divisions, so North America, South America, and Europe, were all longer playoff series that are long a series, a season that culminated in a one-off match, and the winner of that match face off, and whoever wins that goes on to play in Jokoping. It was the 1A versus the 2B, and it was the 1B against the 2A. And I know we mentioned it so much. To be or not to be, it's very very hard. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think we can agree all the two Bs got shafted. In terms of playing the teams,
Well, I wouldn't say shafted, but
it
they
was
they
it was
definitely
very
had an
hard.
uphill battle.
Yeah,
I think the closest, well, I think the second closest one that we had was actually in Europe, and I guess we'll start there, Parks, and that
yeah,
was Biggie Keepa and Enigma Galaxy. I actually thought Biggie Keeper showed a lot of really good things here. The Ancient 1610 to Enigma's favor, and then Vertigo 1613. But I wouldn't put it past, um, Biggie Keeper what they showed. I mean, this is the number one team in the world, and Biggie Keeper played them really tough.
I mean, yeah, double digit score lines is considering where we have Nigma slated in our minds as the number one in the world. Playing them that tough on both maps, it's very good signs from Big Keepa, and it shows that they were prepped. As we know, usually those big teams are. You talk about the men's team with Tabson and all them. They always come to the majors prepped, ready to go. They usually will stun a few at the start, and they'll go from there and hopefully 3-0, that kind of thing. They get out of challengers quickly because they prep so hard beforehand where they know what you're going to do no matter what kind of thing. I'm not sure if that's what Big Akipa are doing, if that kind of mythology is rubbing off onto them, but playing Enigma tough on two maps, it's a very good sign from them that there is a lot of growth happening. And being that 2B, as we mentioned, means that they, even going 2-4, they did enough to make sure that they were into that playoff spot.
That was going to be my point. Was that they were 2-4, and then they still played Enigma that tough. Like it's like,
Yeah,
look, they can hang their heads high ahead of next season, assuming we get one. But the other, I mean, look, business as usual for Enigma. Really, they're at the land. I think everybody expected them to be there,
yeah,
and they have a shot to defend their season one title. So good for them. Congratulations. And we didn't really see as dominant a performance from a lot of the players, although they were pretty high up on the list. But the other semifinal, in fact, I'm looking at the stats now that were published
yeah.
by FemaleCS.com Twitter, at FemaleCS, by the way. For I mean, just the
For
must, a
literally
must,
everything.
yeah, a must follow, really. Cat through Vilga, Cat Anatori Vilga were all in the top 10, top 5 in terms of stats leaders. But nonetheless, we had our other semifinal. Sorry, not Enigma Galaxy.
Navi Javelins and No Fear
Navi
5.
Javelins and No Fear 5. Yes, thank you. And that was, first off, a shock in terms of results. No Fear 5, 2-1 through. But also a really, really, I mean, you could cut tension in those games with an absolute knife. They were incredibly intense.
Yeah, and I mean the scoreline 16-8, Dust 2. That's the farthest apart they ever were. It was 16-10 and then 16-13 for No Fear 5. They came back, they reverse swept. They won Vertigo and Mirage to get there. And now all of a sudden we see them going into a LAN. And that's I want to say Navi were at the last two LANs. They were at season 1 and they were at
They were not at
Valencia.
season
They
one,
weren't
I
at
don't
season
think,
1.
and I think they were at
They
Valencia,
were at
and
Valencia though. I know
they
that one
really
for
showed
sure.
up at Valencia. They made the
Yeah.
playoffs there. So,
And that's
uh,
kind of crazy to think of that No Fear 5. I don't think they're organized. They're under an org. They think that's just a
they're
team
not.
name.
They're
Yeah.
not.
So that's a free agent team, kind of like Please Send Help were when they went to Dallas, that have kind of defied the odds and have made their way into a LAN and hopefully are going to get exposure. Might even get an org as a result of this because they're showing up.
Probably not, but
Probably. I can dream,
not for
Benny. I
anything
can
they do.
dream.
Not for anything they do. Like,
No.
love the players. Been playing quite a while. I actually got a lot of respect for the players, but yeah, I just think the current geopolitical climate means that they're probably not. They're probably just not going to get kicked
Yeah,
off the list on a risk.
okay, I can understand that. I don't
Unfortunately,
know.
it's unfortunate to have to say that. Like, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It shouldn't have to affect it,
Everything. Yeah,
but
the geopolitical climate has nothing to do with the players,
no,
and nor do the players affect the geopolitical. But it just is the
it's
way it
one of
is.
those things.
Unfortunately, yeah. So, but look, No Fear 5 was good. They took a map off Enigma Galaxy in the first in round 3, right? That was the Dust 2. That was on overtime, of course.
Right.
Um, and oddly enough, that was the map they dropped versus Navi Javelins in the best of 3. But nonetheless, you think, it's not bad. Like, this isn't a bad team, and there's definitely signs that they have that they're very good, that they can play solid Counter Strike, and that's exactly what they did, and they have throughout the season. I know they finished 3-3 in the group with Ninjas in Pajamas, who really came on strong at the end. But nonetheless, I look at No Fear 5 and go, this is a team that has great firepower. Some of these players have been playing together for a while, and well played. And I know Navi are heartbroken. First off, I can totally understand why.
Yeah.
A lot of the things was saying we went 6 weeks being perfect, but one series we lose at the very end cost us the land, and it doesn't seem fair. And I'm like, you might be right, but I'm gonna make myself the enemy here.
Yep.
You've got to win when it matters. Okay, you have to win when it matters most. Okay, there's a reason games matter more than other games. There's a reason, you know what I mean. There's always going to be those contexts because of either prior results in the same tournament
Yeah.
or whatever. Right? You have to win when it matters most, and
And I
that's what
think
that
that's
over five have done.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I kind of guess as North American sports fans we understand is you can be President's Trophy winner in the NHL, and all of a sudden you don't win the finals, you don't win those 7 games or 4 of those 7 games, you don't get the cup, you don't get the big win. So
not
I can
not to
understand.
not to pull a real life example of it, but
Yeah.
welcome to the 2022 Philadelphia Phillies. I mean,
Oh my God, yes.
they were the third team in their division. They barely snuck into a wild card. They won on the last day of the season or the second to last day of the season to qualify for the playoffs. And they've beaten three straight teams in series. Like you have to win when it matters most, man.
Oh,
That's I mean, all winning in the regular season is great. Building up that momentum, building up that confidence, building up that play and chemistry is awesome. You know what I mean?
you need
But
to
when
show
push
up.
comes to shove, yeah, you have to show up, and
Yeah.
it's just No Fear 5 did, Navi didn't, and, that's why they're going to the land, man.
Yeah, and I mean like that example even for esports side, like Nouns just lost 3-1 to ATK the other night for the conference spot. And ATK were the lower bracket team coming in. Nouns had the one map advantage and they got absolutely shut out all 3 maps. So it was a clean sweep by ATK. And man, that's sometimes that's what happens, you know? You get the team has your number and that's all it takes. So, yeah, that's Europe. Congrats again, No Fear 5 Enigma. They're going to be going to Jokoping. It's not too far of a journey, which is always kind of funny. But yeah, that's I think we should move on to the teams that'll have the longest journey, the South American division.
Yes. What a series we got, between, Fury and MIBR. This is the 2B, versus the 1A, and,
Yeah.
MIBR looked, pretty good, they won the Dust 2 16-14. They lost Nuka Mirage by the same scoreline, 16-7 apiece. And the Mirage was really close in the first half, if I remember correctly. It was like 9-6 in
Yep.
the first half, and then MIBR went on CT side, just got absolutely steamrolled. But and it was the same story. It was the same story on the Nuke as well. They were
Yep.
they were 9-6, although granted, they were 9-6 down after their CT side. So when you're going on T side and you're already at a disadvantage on Nuke or Overpass, I would say it's very
Yeah.
difficult to try and overcome that. And
That's a rough start if you're
yeah,
CT side and you're down going into the second half. You really got to start pulling some tricks out of the bag.
yeah, if you're starting to T side and you're down, it's tough. But look, they showed a lot of fight in the dust too. MIBR probably. I don't know if I want to give them the credit for being the best Dust 2 team in the world, but they certainly are a very good Dust 2 team. I will
There you
say
go.
that. And well, it's because it's one of those maps in Brazil. Like, well, they'll beat Fury on it, and then they'll go lose to like Endgame on it, and you're like, what the hell, guys? Like, what is going on in South America? But Mirage, I still think is the best map. I think Fury are still the best Mirage team in the world. I don't even think Nigma are as good on Mirage
Yeah.
as Fury are, and they showed why. They were really good on that T side. And Furia went to land the other semifinal. By the way, B4 versus Black Dragon, 16-2, 16-9 for B4. Now, the interesting story about that, by the way, Parks,
Yeah.
is there was a tournament, a whole mess of stuff with scheduling and conflicts and
Yeah.
scheduling conflicts. There was a tournament in South America called MEG, Esports Tournament or something like that, right? And they were supposed to have Furia versus B4 in the final. Then they realized that the final was going to be the same. It was a land, by the way. So then they
Yeah.
realized the final was going to be the same day as the Impact's playoffs.
Right.
So B4 hadn't pulled out of the event. Furia went to Meg and was like, "We can't play your event. We got this other final." So Meg were like, "Okay, fine. We'll pick a substitution. we'll bring in Black Dragons to substitute you guys, right? Because they were the third team, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fine, right, fine. Then ESL moves both of their South American series to Sunday,
Yeah.
meaning they could play the Meg final. Meg has no comment on changing back to Furia for the finals, right? They're going to stick with Black Dragons. By the way, both were going to play in the playoffs anyway. So
Right.
if ESL didn't
It
solve the conflict, Meg
it
were
would have
just
been
going
a
to be
problem anyways.
yeah, exactly. Meg would have just been like, we're going to have to pick a different weekend, something, right?
Yeah.
There's just no way. So and then B4 beat them 2-1, right? So but it was 2-1, I
Right.
believe, if I remember correctly. I might have to check femalecs.com on that one. But nonetheless, like it was one of those things where it's like, okay, Black Dragons who are coming on pretty strong. Actually, they've had some very strong performances recently. It does have to be said.
Right.
Uh, you know, showed up really good against a B4. Then they get the rematch, and yeah.
It just complete sideways.
Yeah, it was a complete opposite end. It was a complete opposite result. It was B4 absolutely steamrolling him 2-0. So I was kind of shocked at that. Very shocked at that.
I mean, I guess it's the same thing as we just said earlier for Snavi. Maybe they just that's a big game for them. They didn't show up, and that's what happened. And everybody has those off days, right? Like, I mean, you talk about any single player out there, they've all had at least one day or one game where it just nothing clicks. The team is not ready to go, and that's where we're at, right? That's what happened to Black Dragons. So it is going to be B4 going to help represent. It feels weird because I don't know B4 as the name. I don't know the players kind of thing. I know who MIBR is because they went to Valencia, and I saw it and they had a strong showing. So I don't know. To me it seems like we're gonna have really two strong Brazilian teams because of course Furia is the one that always knocks on the door of Nigma, and
Yep.
MIBR were very strong showing as well. B4 beat them during the regular season because they went 6-0. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get
They
two
did the
really good
double over
teams.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But B4 used to be the old Black Dragons side.
Okay.
So Junger, Nani, Goddess, they picked up Poppins, who's been like one of the best players so
Yeah.
far.
Now I remember we talked
Um,
about Poppins last
yes, and
episode
she
or a few
actually was
episodes ago.
finished fourth on the stats leaders and that PMLCS posted.
Well, there you
Of
go.
course, Olga was one. Junger had a really good season. Oh,
Yeah.
she finished two, so she finished with a 1.18 rating, which is very very good. So B4 actually had three of their members in the top five, with Junger,
Wow.
Poppins, and Nani. So Furia only had Iza and Olga in the top five, although they had four of their players in the top 10. But still,
Yeah.
really good performance from B4 throughout the season, I think, and they definitely uh, showed why they deserve to be at the LAN. I think they throughout their group. I mean, Furia weren't. I don't want to say they're not really tested. They were tested. They dropped the map to Black Dragons even as well. But like the more competitive group was always going to be Group B, and for B4 to come out in the fashion that they did, uh,
Which was a
winning
lot.
6-0. Yeah, I think it's. I don't think they dropped the map the entire tournament. I
Wow.
think they dropped. I think. Oh, they dropped one map to MIBR in round three.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it.
So
Wow. Okay.
really good performance from B4.
So that's the big team, I guess, to look out for. I guess is a dark horse because we don't know much of them at the level compared to everybody else. Uh,
Listen, I believe in Junger supremacy. Okay, they're my dark horse. If anything,
okay.
they're a really good team.
Yeah. Well, I guess that just leaves us with one region to go, the North American side, which, of course, we mentioned all the South American games. Sorry, were on the Sunday. To make room for that, all of the North American games were on Saturday, which made actually it really good entertainment wise for me. I could sit there and watch the entire thing and just commit to it because my Saturday was free. And honestly, that first match was kind of how we always expected it to go. It's so unfortunate. I wanted more. I wanted to see
Was that
something.
CLG versus Box? Was that the first
Yeah,
match?
that was the
Yeah.
first
Wow.
match.
Yeah. Yeah. Box have got some roster changes incoming as well.
Yep.
Kimmy has taken a position with
Yeah, she's doing a programming boot camp, I think.
Yes, yes. So, look, big congrats to her. I mean, by all means, like put your career first if that's what you need to do. You know what I mean? Sometimes maybe not what you want to do, but what you need to do. You know, if you put your professional, not CS professional, but obviously you're like, you know,
Your full-time job that lets you play CS as your side gig.
yeah. By all
That
means, put
lets you
that
live
first
your
if you need
dream.
to. Yes, exactly. So, um, and big congratulations to her. No, I hold nothing back from her.
Yeah.
But this is kind of really the curtain call on the box, because obviously we had Sapphire remove herself from the team earlier this year,
Yep.
pretty much for the same reason, right?
Yep.
And now we've had um, Kimmy's going to have to do the same. So they're looking for two players, and there's a lot to build on there. Like
Yep.
Senna's good, um, Bouchard is pretty good in-game leader,
Yep.
very talented player, very got a lot of experience. Vanessa's really impressed me. I actually didn't think I didn't know anything about Vanessa coming in. I was like,
Yeah.
well, this could go either way. Like, I don't know if she's going to be able to replace Sapphire the way. Been absolutely one of the better impactful players. Like, really, really good from Vanessa. I'm very happy the way she's been playing. So there's a lot to build on there for players coming into side. I think it'll be a good environment for anybody wanting to get into CS seriously.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about that box roster of old that came into season one originally. That roster was Kianetta, Bouchard, Smiley, Kimmy, and Sapphire. Sapphire and Kianetta, of course, were the first two to take a break, both due to outside work commitments, basically outside of the game. And then, of course, now it happened again. Now Smiley and Kimmy both have to step away because they don't have the time. And I spent quite a I've spent a bit of time talking to Smiley about this kind of stuff. She just has so much going on in her life. It's just so chaotic. One of those things. It's just one of those things of one thing had to go, and at the end of the day, she needs her job, and she loves her hockey. So
Yeah.
she's stuck with those
Uh,
two instead, and she loses CS. And I think one of the things that I love the most is neither of them have committed to retirement. It's net they I
right.
said to Kimmy because I was like, congrats, I'm really gonna miss casting you, and she's like, oh, I'm not retiring. I'm gonna be gone for a bit for sure, but I'm gonna be back. So that speaks to me that I don't know if they're it's probably gonna end up they're gonna have to be on a new roster at that point. I don't know if you want to if you're the please send box if you want to basically have a substitute while you wait for Kimmy to come back. I'm not sure that's how you want to build a roster, but just the knowledge that these players are going to come back as long as the scene is there for them, that just speaks to how committed they are and just the situations outside that are preventing them from being able to play this game full time as their job.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, you know, I don't know. It speaks to me. I guess a little personally because it's the same. I like. I don't know. I don't want to make it about me, but I want to empathize. I want to
Yeah,
sympathize with the players, right? Because it's like
right.
I get it, right? Especially with like Smiley, which is like, well, she loves hockey, she wants to play hockey, but then play hockey. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
make hockey be the number one thing. From I'm the same way. Like I love the Union. I would love to go watch the Union. If somebody made me pick between casting and the Union, I am probably going to watch the Union game. Like I love casting. It doesn't mean I don't love casting, but there's some things that just grab your passion more than others, and life is a way sometimes of making you prioritize those things,
Yeah.
and you just got to do it. You got to be honest with yourself, and you have to do it sometimes. And
That's
that's
that's what
that's what these
happens.
players are. Yeah, exactly. So absolutely no love, no hard feelings or anything like that. It's great to see them move into a position where they can you know, pursue those other passions or endeavors. And, it opens up the opportunity for other players who really want to take a step up to come into a side and try to make that very step up. And,
Hmm.
I could speculate. I kind of want to put you on the spot and say, who do you think should go in the spot? If they got two players, I know Giraffely posted that she'd be interested if come February, and if that's not an issue with the schedule, right?
Yeah.
Then I would say definitely because Giraffely would fit right back into this team very well. She
Yeah.
played with them when they were Able Esports and Cyberstorm,
Yep.
and um, she's been playing. I think I casted her first in season 30. That was when my best friend had a team, Shumi. It
Yeah.
was like Shumi, and then Lunar Cats and Giraffely,
Yeah.
and there was a
Bunch of
few others.
players.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
So um, that was an intermediate, I think, as well, and they went 6-10 back then. So it was like
right.
they weren't and gonna rock your socks off, but they were good enough to stay in the division. So it's like, okay, this is a player who's built experience over the years, who if she is coming back to North America and if she is serious about competing, this is a great lineup to fall into.
Yeah.
I have another player who I think would actually fit this team very well, but you are probably going to
I like how you asked me who I was going to put on this roster, and then immediately we're like, well, no, of course we're
go
going to add
ahead.
this
No,
person.
go
No, no,
ahead.
no, no,
No,
no.
no, no, no.
If you got a
You
player,
give me your two, and then I'll
well,
end on my controversial one.
so here's the thing. I love Ashley. She's a great player. I worry that being in Korea for as long as she was means that she's lost a bit of kind of that edge that she would have had she just stayed in North America. Which again, work commitments. We're not saying, life happens, and I as far as I can tell, she's absolutely loved Korea. So hats off to her for having that opportunity to go and teach over there. That's really cool. The only thing is there's no CS over there for her to try it and play with. She's looked.
You're
She's
right.
looked. I've talked to her. She's looked. So it's crazy. No, um, I like that idea. It just depends on when she comes home. I think it was February. She said she's coming back. Where that fits in with the season, I almost want to see her maybe play with her sister, in with Low Fidelity. I also know the Low Fidelity squad is a very tight five. They're very much like an RBG back in the day before they became Carpe Diem, where those five players were not leaving each other. They were going to play together until it was like until the team was going to explode, or until one of them got like they get an offer that they really just cannot refuse. It's a very very cool thing that the Low Fidelity project has brought forward in terms of just showing that, listen, you stick together long enough, you're gonna show results as a thing. In terms of players coming in, I think Folly Gag would be a really interesting one. I know, as far as I'm aware, at
That's
least she's
true.
looking for one, or she's looking for a team. I believe Echo is kind of disbanding, or kind of going their separate ways.
Yeah.
In terms of other players that kind of immediately jump out to me, it's a hard one. Um, I don't know. It's really weird because the other teams that kind of come through, I it almost feels like they you'd have to be aware that you're developing them as a player. Like when Vanessa came in,
Yeah.
Vanessa showed a lot on Slay, and so that meant that while you're bringing her in and you're gonna have to train her on the systems, you're not gonna really have to worry about her skill or her raw output. The raw output was already kind of there. You just needed to make it work within the system, and even then, like, you still have at least a higher base to work off. If there was a good player underneath there already, you're just trying to push it into your kind of a mold. I like what Folly brings to brings to her teams. Um, I like that idea. The other player, and I just mentioned a Low Fidelity. I'd love for them to stick together. The other player I'd love to see in like a top team, and I know she could do it, is Lynn, LX.
Yeah.
She subbed for EG already when Jess Cass was in Montreal. Um, I don't know. I like that idea of her bumping up and already showing a bunch of firepower. Like she was a pro in Valorant. She played for a few teams over there. Um, I think that would be an interesting idea. I think that would keep in the short term, at least, that would keep Police Inbox still in that kind of top three conversation. Of course, though, you have Saints who are still improving together as a five. So I don't know. You can't. It's such a weird thing that the community is so small that, but at the same time it's so large. Like somebody could
Yeah.
come out of nowhere, and we could just be surprised because it's open tryouts.
I love how the answer to you is the answer that you're gonna give me is basically RKO out of nowhere. Is who's gonna
Yeah,
fit into
RK
this?
out of nowhere.
RKO
We're
out of nowhere. I like Lynn. I think that's a very good pick. I think there's other players like Gammy who could fit well as well. I think there's certainly a lot to look at with these sides that are breaking up because of real life commitments or whatever. My controversial pick, right? You're gonna shake your head.
Okay.
Much of the viewers are gonna shake their head. My controversial pick is Wedding, and the reason my controversial pick
Yeah.
is Wedding is
Yeah.
because
Yeah. I'm gonna shake my head on that one.
this is why.
Yeah.
Wedding needs a team that isn't gonna put up with the bullshit, right? So
But wasn't that
that's
Saints? Sorry, I just wasn't that Saints though, because they didn't put
um
up with it.
but they're too new. They're not as
Right.
established as the
Okay.
Bucks are, right?
Okay.
So everybody was kind of new at the beginning, and then you got this kind of mucking around that's been going on, right? And
Yeah.
you can
And
blame who
then
you want, but when you go to 2, 3 different teams and the results the same,
something
I'm
something
talking
needs
about
help.
the man in the mirror. But you know what I mean? Like, okay, just gonna put it bluntly, all right? I'm gonna put myself out there, right?
No, put yourself out
But
there.
but this is a team that has veteran players who know like that shit's not gonna work here, right?
Yeah.
And we know that fundamentally, as a player, Wedding has a lot of good, abilities, right? She's
Mhm.
very young. Part of it too is the way that Wedding is the way Wedding is because,
She's
I
young.
mean, they're very young. Yeah,
Yeah.
like sub 18, like that. You're always going to have those issues with players. You know what I mean? Like it's
No, you're
very
very
hard that
right.
you're going to get players like that,
Yeah.
especially in an area like North America that kind of caters to that style. Whereas in like South America with Poppins, you're already developing them pre-16 where they
Yeah.
can legally even play in the events, right? North America kind of just lends itself to the style more. But this is a player that if this player is serious about Counter Strike and competing, this is the lineup that can maybe straighten some of those issues out,
Yeah.
right? Because it's going to be very clear from day one. You're here to do a specific task, and what you want doesn't fucking mean a thing. Sorry for swearing.
You get one.
I don't. I get one.
Yeah, you get one.
Okay, all right. Everybody gets one. Is that the
Yeah.
Spider-Man rule? Is that what
That's
we go
that's
by?
one per episode.
Okay, so we're
That's
going by the Spider-Man rule.
yeah.
So you know what I mean. What you want doesn't matter because it has to be the team that's first, right? The
Yeah.
team, and if the team needs you to do X, Y, and Z, and you want it to do A, B, and C, guess what? You are doing X, Y, and Z, and you're learning to do X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, you will not be in the roster. Like that is to me
Mhm.
why sometimes I could understand there's an argument to say this player maybe hasn't earned their spot on a team like Box yet, and I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to be thrown into that different environment to learn very quickly. Like I got to straighten myself out, otherwise I'm not going to make it. And that the Box could potentially be that team.
Yeah.
So that's my point of view. That's why it was like
It,
controversial.
it you know, it,
You
it
know,
it it is definitely a controversial pick. You know, I understand where you're coming from on that. I again though, I look at that and I say I think there are other players who not necessarily deserve it more, but may have had the chance to have earned it. And I
I
guess at
would
the,
agree
the
with
end of
that.
the
Yeah.
day, I think at the end of the day, we look at that and we say, this is what open tryouts are for. I mean,
Right.
they're going to have a new coach. InfoHip has moved on. And they're losing Smiley and Kimmy. So that means you're going to have a new coach coming in who might be trying to help out with a different system. Bouchard is that IGL, so you have to kind of work with her on it. Senna, of course, that huge voice within the squad, very very outgoing in terms of all that stuff. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, you look at that and you say, we don't know who they're gonna pick up. We have no idea, but what we do know is they're gonna be no, no rock will be left unturned. There's plenty of options for them to go through. A lot of it will come down to what are they looking for in a player, what are they looking for in a teammate, how does the chemistry work? Because that's
Yeah.
that's what it is at the end of the day. Your skill can be great, but you could be a shitty teammate, and it doesn't mean anything.
Oh
You're gonna
yeah.
have
Oh
to
yeah.
find your way
I
onto
would.
a new
I would.
team.
I would rather take somebody whose skill isn't as great, but is a great teammate over. And I think 99% of teams that are serious would do the same.
There's a reason why my friends pug with me, even though I am literally 500 elo. Like
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
good teammate. I'm better than a random that you would pick up. So even if I suck at the game, I cannot tell people enough when they ask to pug with me. I suck at this game. Please give yourself a break.
I think part of it too might be sentimental because I look at a player like Wedding and I'm like, God, there's so much talent here, and
Yeah,
it's being held back by them very selves.
themselves.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's very hard to see that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it might be something where that's not always the case. That it might be something that 5 years from now it's not.
Hmm.
But like, I'd
Right
I'd
now,
I'd rather like to see the changes now happen than
yeah.
5 years down the road.
You
You know?
can't force some of those things. Like some of it is you can't
Oh
force
no,
you
you're
can't force it.
absolutely right. You're absolutely. But until they happen, I'm gonna keep pointing them out. Like
Oh
that's,
yeah.
that's I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's the problem. So
Well, okay, so that's the first playoff series in North America. I know we kind of moved on to the box there for a bit, but it's a big point that need to be moved on to. The second playoff match, again, it felt a little closer than it was. It was EG Gold now. I used to call them EG Sacrifice because of the kind of the naming system now. They're EG Gold. They officially got that name coming through. They win over Valkyries 16-8 on Ancient, 16-9 on Dust 2. And I'll be honest, I think a lot of people were really concerned when they went down like 5-4 nothing, 5 nothing on Ancient, and then they clawed back a 10-5 half. So I don't know. I saw a lot of people going, well, this is Valkyrie's map pick, it's Ancient. I'm finding more female teams are willing to play Ancient nowadays than a lot of the upper
Yes.
teams kind of coming through. It's one of those things. I guess they're trying to key in on the fact that it's a newer map in the map pool. If they kind of learn it, become experts in it, then that can become their map, and they don't have to worry about anything else coming.
I think the big thing too is I look at Ancient and I see Mirage
Yeah,
because the way the map is laid out a little bit, right? Like you have a very dominant mid section of the map and it leads into the A site, maybe not the B site as much, but it leads into the A site pretty predominantly, right, through Donut or CT.
yeah,
And then you have a B site that's hard to take straight on, kind of like apps are
yeah,
in Mirage. But if you work your utility correctly, you can get onto the site and get a bomb plant down and try to defend. Even if you're defending shallow within sight, there's opportunities for you,
yeah,
kind of like a Mirage. So I look at Ancient and I see Mirage, and the problem you have is with a lot of these teams, when you play open, you play intermediate, you play main, everybody plays Mirage.
yeah.
You need to find an edge over your opponent. You know what I mean? And Ancient could be that edge, right? That's the way I look at it, at least. Could be, I could be just completely blowing hot air here, but um, still, sorry. I think it is great to see Ancient because you see it in South America now. You see it in North America. You see it in. I was talking with Milk actually on the women's CS:GO roundup, and he said Ancient for B4 is actually a map that they did not pull out until round 3 of the
Wow.
Impact League when they played MIBR. They did
Right.
not play it versus any other opponent. Like they just perma banned it all the time. But they must have been practicing on it. They actually beat MIBR on it. But they must have been practicing it because they knew MIBR was practicing it, and they
Yeah.
sat down and said, "We are going to save this as a pocket, like the
It's a
definition of
secret
a
pick.
pocket pick." Like
Yeah.
it was yeah, and they just here we go. We're an Ancient team now, and they look good. They look really good on Ancient. I'm like, whoa, this team's pretty competent on Ancient. Like they could take some teams to town here.
That is kind of
Uh,
scary to hear that they permaban it because the expectation then becomes, oh yeah, they don't want to play Ancient at all, and then all of a sudden they float it, and you're like, oh, we're gonna take that as our first map, and then they 2-0 you because you gave them their map on a platter for
yep,
them to win.
yep,
That's crazy mind games, but like, yeah, I don't know. There's in terms of the series, Ancient. So yeah, Ancient 16-8, and then Dust 2 16-9, kind of the same story,
yep,
except except it was a 9-6 half for Valkyries, and EG went to their CT side and didn't lose a round. They won 10 in a row,
yeah,
which that's crazy right there. That
yeah.
like
On Dust
wow.
2 as
On
well.
Dust
Like
2,
on
Dust 2,
Dust 2, like
notorious.
yeah, as being one of the better sides for T halves. Like just wow. But
Yeah.
I mean, look, they look good. They look good on Dust 2. EG, obviously, we know they look good on Ancient. They've taken the CLG to overtime on the Ancient, right? Like they're starting
Yeah.
to add a pretty good map pool in here. We know they can play the overpass. It seems to be maybe their third or fourth map pick now compared to, the others. But they're not bad on overpass. We know Mirage is in there somehow as well. So look, overall, pretty happy with the development of this EG side. And you said the EG Gold now. So we got what?
Yep.
EG Gold,
EG
EG
Gold,
Black.
EG White.
E- okay, so you got Black and Gold. Sam Sparrow. Anybody? Anybody? I know you know
No,
that
Benny.
song.
No,
I know
Benny.
you know that song. Come
No.
on.
No. We're no. You
It's a
know.
great song, by the way. Don't I can't name you another song by Sam Sparrow, but Black
Yeah.
and Gold, great song. That should be the
And
theme tune.
yeah.
But nonetheless, off the boomer references and
Yeah.
on back onto the game for a minute. I really like what I'm seeing from this EG side. I think the
Yep.
development. I had a feeling that Valkyries could give them problems because it was one of these things where it's like I haven't really had a chance to play them either in the cash cups or in the
Yeah.
league, obviously, right? So this is a team that might be able to spring a surprise on them. And EG just came in and took complete care of business.
Yeah, and I mean, again, credit to them. If you think about it, this Valkyrie's core was Slay last season, and they lost Vanessa. I believe another player also stepped back for them, but you know, still being that top four, we still have. It's so weird to think of this, but in NA, we still have the same four cores be the top four teams, and even if it was close with Saints coming through, um, Reversal kind of died halfway through the season, unfortunately. Echo and Hot Flash made strides, but again, they were never really that close to being in there. But there's still, we kind of have a more of an establishment as to who are the top four teams, top 4 or 5, of course, because Saints. Um, and we mentioned how Police and Box are looking for teammates now. Valkyries are looking for a coach. I think Dr. Jazz has stepped back, so they're looking for a new coach there. So I don't know. There's a bit of upheaval kind of in the top in the bottom two there as they start to improve themselves, try to improve themselves more. But again, strong showing from a core that has been around for a while. They found those extra pieces. They stayed a top four team, and if the seasons continue on as they have before, this means that they'll also get an invite into season 3. I'm not sure about that. I don't know what kind of comes through in terms of that, but um I think they showed a lot, even if the scoreline doesn't mean anything towards that. They didn't make the problems necessarily, but they were there, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and I would agree. I would agree. I think there's a lot they can look forward to ahead of next season, and I just don't know what closes the gap for them. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have to for me. It'd have to take a lot. I think the fish would need to start swimming out of the ocean, grow legs, start walking.
Happened before.
Parks. I'm so sorry to admit. No, I'm not really. But
No,
no,
you're
no,
never
yeah, no,
sorry when you start
yeah,
throwing weird references at me. Let's be real.
it's black and gold, man. It's thorough. Okay, the first two lines. But
Yeah.
no, I think overall that I think you're right. I think there's a lot that Valkyries can be proud of. I think even the scoreline maybe not shown how strong this team really can be.
Yeah.
I think them and the Saints are really them, the Saints and Kung Fury actually, which who
Yeah,
weren't in this is
Kung Fury
thing.
are one of those teams. It's so weird to think of that this team started after season 2 became a thing and have had strong showings in the Cash Cups.
Yeah, won a
Have
Cash Cup
won a
as well.
Cash Cup, yeah, have won it against Police Sandbox, of course, who were playing with Sapphire and Kianetta as stand-ins for Smiley and Kimmy, I believe.
Correct.
So I, I think we know. I think we know kind of where another team is going to come in and is going to try and break down those doors. What does that mean for the bottom four teams kind of going forward when they have to requalify? I don't know. Um, Obviously, we don't want another team blowing up like Reversal did. I think where we look at this now as we kind of move.
Please.
Yes, please. We have 8 spots. Please don't leave us with 7. Like, anyways, I think one of the things that we're gonna have to look into in the off season. Excuse me, into the off season is the teams that stick together and come back hopefully for a third season, show up and go, listen, we've been gone for a bit, like there haven't been any tournaments for us except for the cash cups, but we've been here, we've been playing together, we're more of a team than we were before. We're gonna come in and we're gonna kick ass and we're gonna try and take over against CLG Red. We're gonna try and take a map off of CLG Red because nobody's done that yet. That's still a thing in domestic play. CLG Red have not lost a map, and it's such a crazy thing to think of that like a team like Nigma, they were like that as well. They hadn't gone down at all in terms of, as far as I'm aware at least, they hadn't lost a map in domestic play until they lost to No Fear 5. Lost a map to No Fear 5. So it speaks to how good they are domestically. It also speaks to um the improvements that the rest of the scene needs to make to get on the level of CLG Red, which is so exciting, I guess, to think about. Like, there's still room for them to compete, and it's not going to be kind of
Yeah.
a stalemate the entire way.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Parks. I'm gonna ask you a
Okay.
completely unscripted question.
Yep.
Okay. Assuming we have no, you have to obviously in science when you do an experiment, you have this
Yeah.
thing called all other things remaining constant, right?
Yeah.
So, assuming no roster changes,
Yep.
all other things remaining constant, right? On that angle. And also assuming that we get the invites of the 4 playoff teams back.
Yep.
So in this case, Valkyries, CLG Red, Evil Geniuses, Police and Box. Who are the other 4 do you think make season 3?
Assuming that these 4 teams, as they are, because we
Assuming
already
all teams in North America stay as
just
they are
stay
now.
as they are. Well, Saints for sure. Kung Fury for sure. Um, Echo have already broken up. How are
Right.
we?
Yeah.
How are we
So,
reacting
so
now?
don't factor them
Echo,
in.
Echo on here,
Don't factor them in.
and Reversal are dead. Um, so we got what? CLG, Evil Geniuses, Police Box, Valkyries, Saints,
You
Kung
said Kung
Fury.
Fury.
Yep. I
2
think Low
more.
Fidelity, and I can't think of another team to be honest. That like Hot Flash, I guess. Hot Flash is the only other team that is
I'm with you.
together.
I'm with you.
Hot Flash is
I
the only
think I
other,
think
but this
that's
Benny, this is such a weird question because Hot Flash is the only other team that is still, as we know, has stuck together. Because
well,
Reversal
yeah, but
died
okay.
and
Look, I'm
Echo have
just
died.
listen. Do it for the pod, okay?
Okay, Hot
Content is
Flash,
content.
Hot
Hot
Flash.
flash. Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to see. They're obviously the question. They're the enigma, right? That's the one
Yeah,
you draw the question mark around. But I think obviously, if you're looking forward to season 3, I think obviously you get the 4 invites back: Valkyries, CLG, Box, EG. I think you have to have them back. I think Saints qualify. They're too good. I think
yeah,
Kung Fury come in. They're too good. I think Low Fidelity are going to get better. I think they come in.
yeah.
And then I don't know. I don't know who the last one is. I would say Hot Flash of the teams that are left, but
Or some mixed mash of free agents that have come together to
yeah,
play
or
it
like
under
or like a rebuilt Echo. You know what I
a
mean? Like
rebuild
CY and
Echo. Yeah,
Cirrus come back and which I
I
expect, and I
I
know
would.
Gag's not looking for to come back for Echo, but maybe Echo pick up Galley, and then you've got HS Jot in there, and you've
Yeah,
got 4 that could really do something. You know what I mean? Like
I think I
you don't
look at
know.
that Echo Core and I say if they come back together, they definitely have a
Yeah,
shot against Hot Flash because those two took a series off each other in the regular play. Like they
yeah,
both go 1-6 against each other.
yes,
Yeah, they
they did.
went 1-5. Sorry, over the season. So they
1 and
both
5. Yeah,
won and lost against each other because neither of them beat Box or EG, and EG went perfect, so nobody beat them at all. But yeah, I think that's really it for everything. Congrats to EG Gold and congrats to CLG Red. Um,
black and gold,
we're gonna
black
see
and
them both in
gold.
Yokaping, which is exciting. Um,
Yeah,
and it also means that we're kind of done for now. The playoffs are done. It just leaves it up to the land, which will be a hell of a time.
yeah, and the
One
cash cups that are in between. That's all we
and any
got, really.
cash cops,
I
yeah,
think we're even at a slow point in South America. I
yeah,
think they just finished Meg. They just had the Liga Femenina. I think they're done now until Masters Femenina.
yeah.
And and the Gamer Girl Pro Festival, which they decided that Gamer Girl Sao Paulo was going to be the exact weekend of ESL finals. Like, come on. How does this tournament organizer continue to
I
get it
I
wrong?
do not want to.
How?
Benny, we do not want to get involved with that yet. There's so much other stuff that we just don't.
I know,
When
I
they
know.
figure it out, I'm more than happy to talk
Wait,
about
they've
them.
been 3 years. They've been operating for 3 years.
They Two of those are a buy. You know what? Let's just let them float around like little fish, kind of out of water. Blah, 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 blah. Across the deck.
They definitely need to grow legs and start walking though. Like, honest to God, okay.
um, but yeah, well, we'll finish it off then with season 43 starting. That does mean that ESEA seasons are kicking in. Uh,
Yeah.
who are you watching, Benikage, in the regular season play, not ESL Impact because that's done.
Right.
What are you
You
watching in
mean
the next 2 weeks?
ESTA league play.
Yeah.
Um why don't you go first? Because I want to pull something up that Milk posted in my Discord the other day.
I'm okay. Well, I'm definitely going to be watching and following along with the intermediate teams in NA. So that'll be who will that be? That'll be EG and or it should be I believe it's EG Gold and it should be Leeson Box, who even after they lost their 2 players there and their coach, they should still have the spot because they earned that. They won that in the open playoffs. And of course, CLG Red in Maine, still trying again to get back into advanced. It's a hard thing to do
They got
in
real
that
close
main.
last
They
season.
did. They got really close. So, looking at both those, hey, eventually maybe Cowday actually comes to America and doesn't play on 100 plus
Please,
ping.
yeah,
Please.
please.
You know, we've got
I know,
BBN over
I
here
know she
already.
loves France, and I get that, right? And
She
I
could live
know
in
that they're.
Quebec.
I know, yeah, exactly. You
You can live
come to
in
Canada.
Quebec. Yeah.
I
Live
mean,
in Canada.
exactly.
You don't have to go to the US. You can come and live
The
in
U.S.
Quebec.
isn't that bad, man. A lot of people think
Yeah,
the
but
U.S.
you
is
don't
bad,
have
but
a
it's not that
free.
bad.
Well, I guess Louisiana, but that's a history lesson right there.
Why would, of all the places in the U.S. you would stick somebody to live in
In Louisiana,
Louisiana?
the Acadians. But again, like I said, that's a history lesson right there.
Why? It just,
Do you have 3 minutes right now to learn about the Acadians and how they got kicked
no,
out
I
of Nova
don't. I
Scotia?
have the
Yeah,
flu,
I
so
know.
I'd rather
I'm
not.
trying to get you out of here, so please pick what you're watching and let's get
I'm
out of here.
actually watching the new teams in the SCI. So
Okay.
obviously, I'm watching the teams that I love, right? EG
Yeah.
Gold, CLG Red. But I'm interested to see how Adair do, Be Back Soon do. Obviously, Grandma's Ashes, which was the Echo side from this season. Hello as well. Like I'm interested
Yeah.
to see how Kung Fury do. The other thing I'm interested to see is we got a big bump and participation in South Africa
Yeah.
for ECA League play. So it's no longer the big three, which were Vibin, White Rabbit, and ATK.
Yeah.
We got Aperture, Kitsune has come in, Royalty is back.
Yeah.
So we've got 6 teams there. Of course, some of those teams are probably going to die.
Yeah.
They always do. But I'm interested to see how these newcomers go as well, because you have a team like, say, Save the Unicorns. They got absolutely steamrolled in every game they played last season. And it's like, okay, well, there's a large learning curve for some of these players. But then every once in a while, you get this new team that comes in that has a player or two that just really look way better than the competition they're playing. And that's what I'm going to be keeping my eye on.
All right. Well, so that's what we're watching. That's the playoffs. We're pretty much caught up. It's Monday that we're recording this. Like I said, we had to wait until the playoffs were over.
Oh, I was going to say there's one other thing I'm watching.
Okay.
I'm so very sorry.
No, it's fine.
Phillies in the postseason, baby.
Yeah,
World
yeah, yeah. We're
Series.
cutting
Let's
this part. We're
go.
cutting this part.
Yeah, we're cutting this.
No. Um No, Benny can have some personality once in a while. Um No, that's it, honestly. Thank you very much for watching. I remember when I talked to you earlier, I said, yeah, we'll do this episode in like half an hour. It won't take that long. And then we spend half an hour talking about NA because there's just so much stuff that happens in our local region. But again, I'll hopefully get this up for Wednesday. And we'll kind of go from there. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it so much. And we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.